Alright, so welcome back class to part 5 of our video lecture series on Unit 1, an overview of stylistics. So previously we started discussing about the history of stylistics and we end in this slide. This is actually a brief animation into the introduction of Noam Chomsky's linguistic theory. And of course, I already shared on our Google Classroom a very short video clip of this animation. And if we are going to take a look at on the gist of the theory of Chomsky, we would all know, or we would be informed, that this one of the pillars of the language acquisition theories in linguistics. We do have here our grandfather Noam Chomsky, a very famous American linguist, definitely has different views in terms of language acquisition, where he is against, or his views are opposite on the theory of John Locke, or the theory of the behaviorist when it comes to the way children or babies acquire language. Because, of course, the theory of tabula rasa would state that when children or when babies are born, they have empty minds. But for Chomsky, it's not the case. For Chomsky class, he believes that by the time babies are born, we definitely already have the ability to learn language. Though, well, for example, we do have already with us the LAD, or the language acquisition device. So all we need now is actually to just fill or to enhance these devices so that we would know exactly the specific um, grammar grammar arrangement of a certain language that we are learning. So he is one of the scholars who definitely are front runners of the nativism or the innatist theory, okay, of language acquisition, where he spoke about universal grammar, or the UG, which means that we all of us, whatever language, whatever first language is, whatever first language you are learning, then definitely we all have the same foundation, in a sense that we should know about nouns, we should know about verbs and stuff, but then it would be enhanced later on by our language acquisition devices as we go along with a specific native language or L1 that we are learning. We have very specific arrangement of words and sounds, right? But then everything is generic. Everything is universal. So that's what UG is all about. And he also discussed about the language acquisition device. So definitely in learning a second language, we need our L1, or the the, the we need the guidance of our L1 or our native language, so we would know our L2, because our L2 class, this is our target language. By the time we are born, we are not learning yet L2, we are learning L1. So the theory of Noam Chomsky focuses on the first language acquisition, because nativism theory, innatism or innatist, where by the time children are born, he does not believe in blank brain or blank slate. For him, learners or babies already have the capability of learning a language, except you have, this ability that would hinder you to acquire. Okay, so it doesn't mean that your brain is totally empty. Children's brain or baby's brain, there are something in there, and it's just that the environment needs to enhance it or needs to fill it in more, so that it would be the learning would definitely be specific into the type of language that the student, or the baby rather, is acquiring. So that is Noam Chomsky's linguistic theory. So now let's proceed with the history of stylistics. After the impact of Chomskyan linguistics, since what he believes in definitely have impacted on the text, the development of linguistics, and that also impacted on the side of stylistics. So, like the linguistic transformations on the principles that definitely he presented. So, now let's try to take a look at now the next, which is explorations in non-literary stylistics. So, stylistics, it's the subject of criticism for for a reason that stylistics class, apart from it is a discipline that is not, that is not easy. I mean, it would really require, it is really rigorous. It would require um, somebody's linguistic knowledge, because you cannot do stylistics if you don't know anything about language. Okay, you would not, know stylistics if you have no idea what the underlying principles of linguistics or English language are. So when we say it's the subject of criticism for its eclecticism, obviously, we are dealing in stylistics. We are dealing with eclectic method. That means we definitely have a lot to focus here, because we do look at literature while studying the linguistics or the language part as used by the authors. It's their style. So when we say eclecticism, that would, lead us to heterogeneous, or the variety, or various sources, or various foci, or focuses that we have in stylistics. So stylistics is not only literary. We can also do a stylistic analysis on non-literary pieces. Okay, so we can analyze stylistically the speech of the president, the commercial, or whatever it is. It's not only limit. The sources of data here in stylistic study is not only limited to literary um, pieces. So a major focus on poetry also caused some suspicion in linguistic circles, because stylistics definitely, started and it focused on the poetry. So it gives a kind of suspicion on the linguistic circles. So definitely are the reasons why stylistics, why there is stylistics. So in the 1960s and early 70s, these criticisms were addressed in part through the development of a branch of stylistics that focused particularly on style in non-literary language. So in order to put an end to all the suspicions, because the first time stylistics, the very first literary genre that is focused by stylistics during its commencement is, of course, the poetry. And because of that, it is being backlashed, or there are a lot of, criticism. So with that, they were able to come up with a, non-literary focus of stylistics, and that is done by Crystal and Davy and Enquist. So Crystal and Davy's concern was how particular social contexts restrict the range of linguistic options, and it's open to speakers. So these are some of the books that they have. If you can get a PDF copy for free of these books, I believe they are worth reading, as they would, enhance our our knowledge on the stylistics, specifically on the non-literary, okay, the non-literary language, which of course are in the non-literary genres. And then Inkvist proposed that this could work the other way too. A speaker's stylistic choices could affect the context for his or her addressees. So it does not only mean now that stylistics only deal with poetry, okay? In the explorations in non-literary stylistics, there are research scholars who definitely really are into looking into a speaker's stylistic choices. May it be a speech, or even just a conversation. We could also do a stylistic analysis of it. And not only poetry, we also can do stylistic analysis on the prose. So a lot, actually, everything that is written or spoken, and as long as it uses a language, you can actually do a stylistic analysis on it. Okay, so after that, we do have systemic functional linguistics and stylistics. So here, Michael Halliday is already um, on the in the house. So the base of stylistics and linguistics has always meant that an advance in the latter inevitably impacts on the former. So stylistics, it was circumvented by the movement of stylistics into the areas of language teaching, and this time now we look into pedagogical stylistics, since stylistics here are already explored as a discipline and should be taught, no? Halliday's work on systemic functional grammar related form to function within the context of the language system as a whole, and had particular influence now in this time the study of prose fiction. So Halliday is also giving a generic ideology or principle on what Geoffrey Leach on foregrounding theory have mentioned, because in his theory of systemic functional grammar, of systemic functional linguistics, he mentioned about a prominence, which is very similar with the foregrounding of Geoffrey Leach. So in this case, so it is now looking into how language system is used, and in particular, study of prose fiction. So it's very the introduction. These are some of the books of Michael Halliday. So he is one of the famous uh, linguists. So we also have here Roger Fowler, whose own essays on style and language is a seminal work in early stylistics, and he used the Hallidayan style transitivity analysis to uncover the point of view patterns in text. So this actually, transitivity, it is one of the models when we are going to take a look at stylistic, when we are going to study or stylistically study a certain prose, for example, a short story, we are going to make use of transitivity, and that is Halliday's model. Okay, but anyway, we are not going to delve deeper into transitivity, since we probably could discuss this on the prose and drama stylistics. But for the meantime, I am just giving you an overview, or just a little bit of background, or just a sneak peek on Michael Halliday, and he is also having this transitivity. So he created this transitivity where through this we would be able to stylistically analyze and interpret a prose, short story, a novel. So we can use this model, okay? Because in the poetry we can make use of Geoffrey Leach foregrounding theory or foregrounding model. But here, in a prose such as novel or a short story, we can make use of transitivity, because transitivity class a model would require a certain write-up to be presented in the sentence, and we can only have that in prose, not in poetry. So now we have here the impact of pragmatics and discourse analysis. So in the late 70s and early 80s, advances were actually made in developing field of pragmatics, and we know the focus of pragmatics is the context, because context class affects meaning. What we mean about that is the way a certain word is used in this community may be different as it is used in the other community, or a certain word here in the Philippines may be used differently in America. Okay, so there are different things, and it matters with the context. Okay, for example, in the Philippines, we definitely use elevator, which is similar with American English. That's how they use the elevator. Of course, we know it's our way to go up to the next level or next floor of a building without using the stairs. It's that thing that we use. But in the, in British English, they use lift. But then lift, we may use lift as well, but in a different context. Not in a context of, going into that, room like that would bring us up to the next floor and down and stuff like that. Lift could be like you are, lifting a pail, or you lift the bag or something like that. We use it that way, but we never thought of, using it because uh, elevator obviously lifts people, right? But then we don't use that here. So that's why there is now a need for the pragmatics. So that's where pragmatics come in, that we have different meaning, we have different meaning of words or maybe of expression depending on the community or the place where you are in, because it has a different context because of context. Carter and Simpson in the year 1989 is an exemplar of how this work definitely had influenced the development of stylistics in the 1980s. Because, class, if we are going to take a look at on the serious stylistic study, let's say a drama, even poetry, no? But since here in the example we have here drama, so the way the language, the characters or the dialogue of the people, the characters, and in the drama definitely may differ when we are going to interpret it, because we also have to take a look at, aside from the structure, we also need to take a look at here the pragmatic side, the meaning, because that's where we are going to come up with a more objective interpretation, not putting our own experience or our own interpretation, being readers, would influence the interpretation of the text as how the author would want us to understand it. So if we are going to go with the serious stylistic study, let's say a drama, even poetry, or any other genre, okay, that would allow, or that would lead us to doing serious stylistic study, then of course we, very important here is pragmatics. That's why pragmatics has impacted the stylistics, okay, or has influenced stylistics. So Burton in 1980 has an early attempt of using pragmatic and social linguistic insight in the study of dramatic discourse. So pragmatic or social linguistics. So social linguistic from word social. So how it is used, no? How it is used in the society, because we do have different community. We belong to different society, and to be fair, we cannot say that because we live in the Philippines, we will be using the same English, or the people in America are using the same English. Okay, so that's why they linguists or authors, scholars like these people definitely has tried to make use of the different branches of linguistics, and they tend to utilize it in their stylistic studies, and that already influenced the discipline of stylistics. Stylistics actually incorporated everything. That's why it is considered to be, the eclecticism. It is considered to be eclectic because it is heterogeneous. It does not only deal with the study of morphology. It does not only deal with the study of syntax, but it deals a study of everything to come up with an objective interpretation or analysis of literary or non-literary piece. And then Short's, in 1981, Short's article on discourse analysis applied to drama is a groundbreaking study of how such insights can be used to uncover aspects of characterization. Okay, so we obviously have here discourse. Okay, it's the correspondence. So discourse analysis also had influenced stylistics. And a crossover with work in critical discourse analysis, we do have here the CDA. And we do have the principles of CDA. Social and political issues are constructed and reflected in discourse, and it's true. Social, political issues, the power relations are negotiated and performed through discourse. Okay, when we have a bilateral agreement, okay, we do it through discourse. So we discuss things, we converse. Discourse both reflects and reproduces social relations. Because we are engaged in a discourse, we were able to establish social relationship. We were able to come up with bilateral agreement if we are going to take a look at countries. And ideologies are produced and reflected in the use of discourse. Why do we have this ideology? Why there are people who agree or disagree on the ideologies? Because there is a discourse. So discourse analysis, it's how we analyze discourse from one people to another, or a conversation that occur among people, among countries and things. Okay, stuff like that, and the likes. Okay, and then now we have here from cognition to corpora. Into the 1990s, a growing concern with the cognitive elements involved in comprehending and processing text, and this movement gave rise to the branch of the discipline now known as the cognitive stylistics or cognitive poetics. So, because during this time in the 1990s, there is already some concern about cognitive elements, the brain, of course, the way we people comprehend, process text. So, that's why they now try to again incorporate another thing in the stylistics, and that's why we do have now known as the cognitive stylistics. So, of course, it is also known as a cognitive poetics. And if we are going to say cognitive stylistics, it means, or cognitive stylistics, it asserts that literary texts do not just have style. Definitely, individual minds do, because the way the writers, when they do individual individual style. So for example, cognitive stylistics analyzes an author's idiolect, his individual language traits. So we are going to try to look into the author's um, background, especially in the language, like where is he or she coming from. Because again, as what I've told you, we definitely have to have this cognitive psychology and neuroscience. They don't know the how human mind works, so they have detected through experiments and how people behave, not through personal testimony about that behavior, but features of mental behavior that are consistent with a standard theory or model. So, cognitive stylistics. We are going to look into the author's idiolect, his individual language traits, because of course the author is the one writing a certain literary piece. So it's fair that whatever is the upbringing, the language background of the author would also reflect to the kind of write-up that he or she made. So that's why we do have here now cognitive stylistics. So all forms of stylistic analysis have always considered text comprehension to a certain extent. And in this respect, current work in cognitive stylistics can be seen as directly related to earlier investigations into the ways in which readers process text. So we do have practical criticism according to Richards, and we also have here advances in computer technology now in recent years also have significant impacts on the direction in which stylistics is heading. Because since stylistics, always remember lang class, since stylistics deal with the style of the author and style deals with the language used by the author, then language is dynamic. So whatever it is that, influence the development of language would automatically also influence stylistics. That's why computer technology, the advancement or the technology, the advancement of technology now also has influenced stylistics as a discipline. So at this point, that is the end of the history of stylistics. Next video lecture will be the last video lecture for our Unit 1. So that means after the last video lecture, you will be ready for a unit quiz that I will let you answer, and then we'll move on to Unit 2. But of course, I have also, we will also meet on Google. So I will just give you right after the last part of video lecture series the schedule for our Google Meet. Okay, so next topic class would be all about style. So we are going to have a deeper discussion on style, and also I already shared, or I already posted a task on the Google Classroom, so don't forget to check that out and answer. Deadline is on Thursday. So that would be all class for this part 5 of our video lecture series of Unit 1, an overview of stylistics. So I will talk with you next time. Bye everyone. Thank